Okay, my name is Sugi, also known as Sugi Style or Sugi Knight, and I'll be doing a forecast of 2014 MOBA scene. And I'm gonna do a tier list actually, placing all the MOBA games based on their growth on the next upcoming year, aka 2014. That how much they're gonna grow in terms of player base, popularity, and esports. So if game 1 is on tier 1 doesn't mean it's better than games on tier 2. It's only based on this formula which I just named. So popularity, esports, and player base. And how successful they're gonna be overall. So everything on tier 1 is very successful in the upcoming year. And bit of my own qualifications, and you might be wondering why this random guy is talking about MOBA games. He's a scrub. Well, I'm not. I run a website called mobamaster.com, which is the biggest MOBA website on the internet. And I also been playing MOBAs since start of Warcraft 3, so very long ago. Also, I've played 90% of the MOBA games in the industry. I played many MOBA games, except the few ones that haven't been released on the Western world. So I'm pretty qualified. I'm also having inside contacts of developers in certain studios, but I'm not gonna name them. So I'm pretty no, I'm not saying I'm aware of the industry as and the genre. I live and breathe MOBA, so to speak. And let's get started with tier 1. So let's get started with the very first tier, and that would be tier 1, the very top of MOBA scene. And this is pretty much dominated by two games, and I think a lot of you folks already know which two I'm talking about right now. And those are Dota 2 and League of Legends. These games are totally different level to tier 2 MOBA games or tier 3 MOBA games because they have been around. They have the really big fan base. They are very extremely successful on the esports scene. It's just on different level, whole different level. But that might change the next year. Who knows what's going to happen? And this is like a prediction video. But before I went to Dota, I want to start with League of Legends. So let's get started with League of Legends, which has been around since 2009 and currently have over 35 million accounts across the world and is most played game in the world right now if you do not count mobile games. And that is a huge achievement for Riot Games, which is a new company that doesn't have any other games under its belt yet. And also the esports scene has been doing so well that the season 3 finals had over millions of viewers on the finals and the whole tournament, and that is pretty crazy if you ask me. Also, the game released Turkish, Russian, and Oceanic servers this year. So there has been growth and they have been open offices around the world. So what is going to happen on 2014? Well, a lot of things, but let's get started with the servers. There's going to be a new server for Japan, and there's already a esports scene on Japan for League of Legends players, and it's probably going to grow a lot when the new server is going to come up. Also, there might be for new servers in somewhere around Asia or Middle East, or perhaps in Africa or South Africa, I would say. But there is no plans of those, but it's all possible. It's all around speculation. But what I think what is going to happen is some kind of Facebook effect where League of Legends is going to lose its members, I mean players, in Western world a bit, around North America and Europe. And it's going to grow on like Latin America as in Brazil, and it's going to grow on Korea and China and Southeast Asia. It's going to grow on other regions more, but I think at least the EU and NA will the growth will be less, or it will decrease. The player base might decrease. As you can see, some of the American and European players have been retiring a bit, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think there's going to be more retiring people on the following season, and overall I think people are just moving to new games. But League of Legends has always been a game that someone quits it and they come back in 6 months and see what's happening, and that is what might happen for League of Legends as well. So some people might quit it, but they might come back. But for instance, the European servers have been influencing a lot of problems, and Riot hasn't done so much. Like at least on the compensating level, there has been like when there was a one weekend of problems for Korea, they were granted a really rare skin, Silent Night Sona, which was rare, and it wasn't a legacy skin back then, and they were given a lot of RP. And when there was like 1 month of a lot of problems Europe West, we weren't receiving any compensation. This might sound a bit biased, but it's true. Europe has been treated as second-class citizens by Riot, and nobody can make a other claim for that. But it's just honestly a bit true. And also, the esports scene is probably going to see those numbers fall a bit. Or I think there's going to be increase, but I don't think there's going to be increase much as was the difference between Season 2 finals and Season 3 finals. Also, there's going to be the challenger scene is probably going to grow a lot. And there's the announced Coke Zero Challenger tournament. Well, it's not a tournament, Challenger League, which will automatically put you to LCS. It's kind of like a promotion tournament or promotion league, you could say. And I'm really looking forward to that. But League has to start paying attention what the players want and start fixing the issues if they want to stay at top of this game, because the competition is going to be rough next year. People, it's like YouTube. YouTube can put features that a lot of people don't like, but the people just don't have option to switch out of YouTube because there is no bigger site or biggest site as YouTube. So it's the same thing that even if Riot keeps doing some shitty stuff, people are not going to switch because there's no better option. And I know a lot of League players do not prefer Dota, and there's no really a lot of League type of games. Well, there is, and there's going to be on the next year, but they're not quite good as LoL yet. So that's why people are not going to leave the ship, so to speak. And also I want to pitch just about the LCS contracts. And Riot has been taking an approach where they want to monopolize esports for them. And like there's been situations where they contacted Evo Geniuses and Dignitas for dropping out the Dota 2 teams. So there's only Moba game that they have is League of Legends, and that is ridiculous. And also there has been talk about the World Cyber Games dropping out Dota 2 because League didn't want these two games played at the same time. And I think that's the same thing for MLG. I haven't seen still a place except DreamHack where there was a Dota tournament and a League tournament. Okay, there was one at Gamescom actually. But as you can see, Riot Games has tried to monopolize the MOBA scenes for them, and that is hurting the esports as a whole. And as a avid MOBA player, I do not like that. But okay, that's enough for League. Next up, we got another Goliath, which is called Dota 2. And these guys are pretty big too. And it's considered one of the most hardcore MOBA games. And I could agree. But I think every MOBA game is very hard at max level. At top level, you play against the best players in the world. And even if the game would be simplistic or complex as fuck, it doesn't matter, because when you're pitted against best players, it's gonna everything change and everything's gonna be hard. But enough about that. So let's start with the Valve, and Valve is the developer of Dota 2. And there has been some controversy between Valve, like the Tire Tide drama, but that got solved. But the thing with Valve is that they don't really have a very big crew or team working on Dota 2, which means like there's no actual support for the game, just there's no like, you just can't file there's no tribunal in the game. Everything is run by the community, and that is not always a good thing, because some people can abuse it, and there's like a lot of exploits you can do on the game currently, but I won't go in detail. But Valve has to fix this. They have to get a customer support. They have to really assemble a big team to work on the game. And I think what is going to be really interesting is that when all heroes are added to the Dota 2 from Dota 1, how is the new designs going to be on the Dota 2? I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to the what the fuck mode. That was the funniest thing I ever played in Warcraft 3 almost. That was extremely fun. There was other really fun modes, but I still don't see them in Dota 2, and I don't know where they are. I kind of want to see them, and hopefully they come. But Dota has a really good thing that they don't have like a direct competition except Han, so they're pretty safe even what they do, because people, they cater a certain player base that is for them, and it's just not going like a lot of people switching to Han. It was actually the other way around. A lot of people went from Han to Dota 2, especially the Fnatic team. And we have to see what is going to happen. We're probably going to see more tournaments since Dota got picked on MLG. There's going to be more offline tournaments for them, hopefully. And the esports should grow more big. But also, one of my own personal things is I don't like the fact that I would have to buy to be able to watch tournaments. I don't get the whole esports key thing. I mean, you get loot, but some people just care about the games and not the loot or gaming. There's a lot of people who just watch esports but don't play the game itself. And for that reason, I feel the whole key system is kind of ridiculous. And Valve does it on Counter-Strike as well, but I don't think a lot of people feel comfortable doing that. And people talk about supporting Valve, but Valve has so much money, they don't really need it. And everything is practical. The whole workshop is based on people make them content for free pretty much, and they get a cut. But Valve gets money for nothing. They just have to back the best gear to add in their own game from workshop, and that's like, it's a really good business model. But you know, the company is getting so much benefit from that. The overall forecast of Dota 2 looks pretty good if Valve steps up their game and fixes the core issues and hires some people to do like esports. And you know, international is the only tournament they do a year. You know, they have to think a bit further than that. But the esports looks pretty good to me, but I think Valve has to step up their game a bit. And that ends our tier 1 list. Let's move to tier 2 now. The next up we have tier 2, and this consists of 4 games, originally 6, but I decided to drop 2 to tier 3 for specific reasons which I will be explaining later. And these games probably going to take tier 1 at some point, at least one of these, because Valve and Riot have been fucking up a lot of things, and that is kind of unacceptable, and they haven't been treating the players and the community at the best level they could have. And if they don't start stepping their game up, they might lose some player base to these tier 2 games. And it's already been happening a lot. But yeah, let's get started. So let's get started with Smite. Smite has been developed by Hi-Rez Games, and the game has been almost 2 years in development. I think the launch has been in 1.5 years. And I started playing this game back in January this year, and I tried it, and I didn't like it that much. When I returned at around June, the game had improved so much. They have been improving the game so much over these past months. They have remade the maps, the graphics, the models. They have been improving a lot. Then there's the Smite Esports, where there's the weekly tournament where European best in 8 teams play. That has been really successful. Then there is, of course, the Chinese server being opened just recently, and the big game is going out of beta at March. So things are looking really great for Smite. And one thing I would always like to point out about Smite is Hi-Rez always been community-based game. They always been listening community. And when community has done like an outcry, and Hi-Rez always have listened. You don't see that in Riot or Valve, you know. There's sometimes no reply for these outcries. And the community relations always been really good with Smite and Smite community and Hi-Rez. And also the community as whole, the games are more enjoyable. This community is not trolly and toxic like in League or Dota. Yeah, I think just something about Smite and its player base is really good. I can't say per se what, but one thing that is really good that I think Smite is going to get much bigger next year. There's going to be more servers maybe opened, maybe in Korea at some point, and this game is going to grow, and it might be starting its own following, and I think it might be tier 1 very soon. Next, I'm going to talk about Heroes of the Storm. Is a game developed by Blizzard Entertainment, which uses Blizzard intellectual properties such as Diablo, StarCraft, and Warcraft, and possibly the anonymous Titan Project characters maybe in the future too. And Blizzard has a huge following, and for only that reason, this game is going to be really popular. And only problem I have with this game, I mean, it looks great. It's probably appealing to Dota and League players. The art style is pretty great. The map, there's different maps, different objectives. It's going to be refreshing. It's going to be different characters. The customization part of this game is pretty questionable since there is no items. I'm not sure is the skill trees like there's going to be one viable tree like in Diablo. You know what I mean. So I have to see how that goes. As for esports, I would probably put this to tier 1, but I don't feel that esports is going to be really successful. Of course, Blizzard going to run their own tournaments, but I just don't see how this game can be really challenging when there's no individual play. I mean, you can make plays, but they don't have enough impact, and I just don't think it's like, yeah, it's a team game, but I just don't see the competitive aspect of it, because the game is really based on really casual, because you can make many mistakes you want, you could die many times as you want, you're just going to be still on the same level, and that is pretty ridiculous in my opinion. Somebody can AFK at base and he will still get the experience, and that is fucking retarded if you ask me, and Blizzard has to do something about that. But we will see, because once it goes beta it gets feedback, and it might deform to more hardcore game or more casual than it is right now on the BlizzCon test version. But time will tell what's going to happen. Enough about that. Our third game of the tier list is Core Masters, and this is a game that a lot of people do not know. And you're gonna thank me later if you happen to love this game, because this game looks amazing. It looks amazing. This is made by Big Bang and is published by PMang. And this is a Korean game actually, and it's gonna get a Western release at 2014, and it's currently in closed beta on Korea. I haven't read what is the reception in Korea, but I think the game is pretty unique since it doesn't have lanes. It has this kind of like a map where you destroy objectives. You have a kind of like a base or nexus kind of thing, and it's hard to explain the game because I haven't really tried it yet. But based on the content I've seen, it looks pretty interesting and refreshing, and the game looks absolutely fabulous. The graphics are really good, the art is amazing, and this is a game I'm looking forward to most on the next year. But we have to see how the Western release is going to do, because Korea hasn't been, or Chinese games haven't been so successfully releasing their games at the Western audience. It hasn't worked that much before. Ion is a good example though of a successful importation, but we have to see. Our last game of this tier is Strife, which is in my opinion the most potential to be big next year. It might be coming like a tier 1 side to Dota 2 and League of Legends. Strife is made by S2 Games, the same guys who made Heroes of Neverth. But this doesn't mean that they're going to stop producing Heroes of Neverth content. They're just simply going to make 2 teams, and one is going to work on Strife and one is going to work on Heroes of Neverth. And why Strife is so good? Well, the art style is similar to League of Legends, so to speak, but it's more Disney than it's more anime-like, in my opinion. This is my opinion. And it might be aimed for more younger audience than Han is. Also, the game has this karma system, and it's really anti-toxic game. Like, you can speak to all chat, and it's like anti-flamer. Has been like some precautions and systems that will prevent toxicity in the game, which is like really present on Moba games, which needs to be fixed. And Riot is number one, and Han actually. Well, actually those, and Dota too. These communities are extremely toxic, and it's almost unplayable because everybody's flaming, everybody's calling each other noobs. It's just ridiculous, and it's gonna make miserable gaming experiences. And Strife has some solutions to that, and I'm looking forward to that. And they also have no wards in this game. You have these structures which you can capture, and you get vision over the map. Also, you have this crafting system where you craft buffs to your items, and then you have a pet system where you can the pet has passive abilities and one active ability, and you can change pets. And it's pretty cool. There's some pretty cool innovation. It's definitely different from League. It's a bit similar, but it's really different. And I'm really excited for Strife. Expect to see Strife content on my channel actually a lot more in the future once I get a key. And let's see what's going to happen on Strife next year. And it's probably going to open beta during December or January phase. And that ends our tier 2. So next up we have tier 3. And these two games, I originally planned to put them on tier 2, but because of, well, certain things affecting the whole tier list, I had to move these to tier 3. And here's why. Let's start with Heroes of Nerveth. This game, they has two games. They made some questionable decisions like the Haunt Tour, where some of the prices were paid with in-game currency didn't make much sense. Some people questioned a bit the scene a bit at that time. And also I think since Strife is going to be a new game, a lot of people are going to move from Han, maybe because they're bored or maybe they just don't like Han anymore. And Strife, people are just going to go to Strife, I think. And I just don't see any reason why Han should get any bigger. I mean, it's getting a Chinese server, so that might help it. I think it's going to be relevant still on I heard it's really popular in Philippines and Southeast Asia. I think it's going to grow its fan base maybe there, but I just feel like the growth in NA or EU is just not going to happen anymore. It's just not going to suddenly burst out as a game. So I think Strife will just absorb of that player base a bit. Downgate is the second tier 3 game I've listed, and I wanted to kind of put it on tier 2, but I came to a conclusion that every other game on tier 2 is much better than Downgate. Downgate's problem is that Waystone Games released this game way too early. When the game, I played it since for the first beta week, and then there was 12 characters, and every other game out there is more progressed. Everything was so unfinished on the Downgate's release. It felt like more like an alpha version than beta version, and for only that reason I'm putting it tier 4, because it will take over a year to this game to become the big game it needs to be. It's really unique in a way. It's more catered to league players, and it's pretty casual at some point too. But I feel it requires a lot of balancing, a lot more content. It has to be contentful, and currently I'm not really getting the impression of I want to come back and play this. It's just no some term of progression in this game yet. But I think this will be fixed at some point, but it's just not right now there. The tier 4 is actually a bit special because it consists of indie games, and I decided to make our own tier for them. And this consists of games like Arena of Heroes, Awesome Nuts, Armech, and Fates Forever. Fates Forever looks actually really good, and it can like tip the balance of iOS Moba games. I have big faith for this game, but there's always the limited time which you can receive with iOS. Also, I feel awesome now just getting some esports scene. There has been some support for it and demand, but the Ronimo Games has to balance the game more, and they have to put more content up. They just can't keep doing Kickstarters to create new characters. They actually have to put some money investing creating those new characters. And that's kind of sums it up for the indie scene. These indie games all four are pretty okay to me. They never will be big as tier 2, tier 3, or tier 1 because they're just indie and they will never appeal to millions of people. It's just not gonna work like that. But anyhow, that's for indie tier, and let's move next to 5th tier. So let's get started with 5th tier. I also call it a shit tier because the games are pretty bad, no offense, but they need a serious improvements to compete with the other tiers because they're just never going to get there if they're not going to. I don't know how we just fix a game like that, to be honest. So let's get started with Sins of Dark Age, and this game was actually one of the earliest MOBAs, but the update stopped and everybody stopped playing. Now it's back on Steam again, yeah, but the game is not that good. The graphics are kind of unique, but they're still very outdated. The animations are pretty outdated. I don't see any lot of unique features about it. They have to fix this game a lot to make it work. The second game is Guardians of Middle-earth, and this is a disgrace to the whole fucking scene, you know. Have to fucking pay for this game, and it's fucking horrible. It's fucking imbalanced. This game is just for making the money, you know, nothing else. It's horrible. It even changed studio at one point. This game is never going to be big because it's not free to play. How can you make a mistake like that in 2013? It's unbelievable. Then we have our third game, which is Prime World. Prime World is actually pretty fine, but because of the castle system, it's very grindy. Everything costs a lot in this game. No other game has that costs cosmetics than Prime World. Third problem is because it's based on grinding the items, so-called passives and spells for your characters. This means the matchmaking will never be balanced, and that is the hugest problem when I play this game. Either you wait 10 minutes till you get a game, or you get a one game that is hugely imbalanced. They should remake the game a lot. The castle system is pretty cool, but there's too many issues with this game to order it to be successful. And everything else, like I haven't mentioned, like Loco, Warhammer Online, those flopped hard. Rise of Immortals died because it was a failure. Then there was Realm of Titans, that fell too. That was kind of publisher's fault, but that game also was, it didn't have any unique aspects of it. It just didn't work. So this is why they are at tier 5. And once you get to tier 5, you know, maybe a year ago these games could be a bit higher, but the competition has gone so good that these games just can't climb up from the mistakes they've had made development wise. But it's not maybe developers' fault necessarily. Maybe they didn't have funding, but it's just the cold truth that these games are not up to the par with the others. Okay, thanks for watching this far and listening this far. I'm gonna do a small talk about the mystery tier, which is our small list of Asian MOBA games that are coming really soon, but I'm not sure will they get a Western release. So first is Battle of the Gods, which is made by Tencent Games, and this is going to be direct competition to Dota 2 in China, maybe across the world. The art style is really similar to Dota, and I can see how it could appeal to Dota players. I'm not sure is it hardcore as Dota, but I know it's 10 versus 10, and there's some pretty interesting modes and stuff that make it pretty interesting. The second game is also made by PMang as the core masters, is the Age of Storm. This is a direct competition for Smite, and but it's more AOS, the very original AOS GT, where you have 3 bases and practical like 7 lanes. Counting the all together. And I don't know if there's gonna be Western release for this game, but it looks pretty cool to me. I would try it definitely. And my third game is the Kingdom of Fighters, which is released on Thailand. This game looks pretty good, and it has like a brand and fan base behind it. And I think there's like esports scene to it on in Thailand already. Have to see if it gets a Western release. Then we got the War of Three Kingdoms, which is based on the Chinese dynasty. It's also only on China right now. Not sure is it ever going to see a Western release. And that pretty much sums it up. Hopefully I didn't forget any games. Of course I did forget like Bloodline Champions and Demigods, but these games are pretty dead right now, so I don't want to count them in. And sorry for making this so long, but I always try to be philosophical and try to explain why and why. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'm out.